physicsacademyonline.com, we teach physics in an interesting and engrossing way.
Is the alternative name for fluid friction. We have done before that when a solid body moves on a solid surface, the frictional force coming into play between two solids is called solid friction or simply friction. We discussed this in detail. That in case a solid body moves through a fluid body, that is fluid means a liquid or a gas, as I show in the figure here. Suppose this solid block is tending to move to the right through this fluid, and in such case, once again a resistive force comes into play between the solid and the fluid that tries to resist, to stop any relative motion between the solid and the fluid. And as you understand, in this case, the fluid exerts the force of friction onto the solid to the left to resist the solid's motion. So if we could call this force, say Fd, I could call it. This is a symbol I introduced earlier. Force F and D standing for the word drag. Drag force applied by the fluid onto the solid to the left to impede the motion of the solid to the right. Now according to Newton's third law, solid also exerts a force on the fluid. That will be to the right in my figure, and I might call the force as minus Fd because the two forces have to be equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. So you see that drag force is a special name for fluid friction, and it has been found, unlike solid friction, Fd is a function of the relative speed between the solid and the fluid. This is something different from what you have done so far. We have learnt about laws of friction in solid friction. If I can remind you briefly, it is of the form F is equal to some constant called mu, frictional coefficient, into the normal force applied between these two surfaces. That was the general standard form of frictional force between two solid bodies. But in case of drag force between fluid and a solid, we find the drag force doesn't have any relationship, any look like this. It rather depends on the speed relative between the solid and the fluid. That we should keep in mind. So the treatment will become quite different as we learn about it. Now again, under this situation, there are two cases. When relative speed between the solid and the fluid is low, that is low relative speed between them, it has been found drag force is found to be proportional to V, that is the first power of V. On the other hand, if the relative speed between the solid and the liquid, or rather the fluid, is either ordinary or high.
We strongly believe if students follow video lectures regularly and clear their doubt effectively through physicsacademyonline.com, they will attain enough expertise to perform confidently to reach their academic goals in board level examinations or any competitive examinations anywhere in the world.